Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has been captured, and Attorney General Pam Bondi says he and his wife will be indicted on new charges in the Southern District of New York.
Now, the Venezuelan ruling party leader told the Associated Press Maduro and his wife were at their home within a military installation when they were captured. It started with a series of strikes in the capital of Caracas. The Venezuelan government called it an imperialist attack and urged citizens to take to the streets.
And once again, those charges filed in the Southern District of New York. That's where John Diaz is joining us live now in Lower Manhattan outside the courthouse with the very latest. John.
Yeah, good morning to both of you. And Attorney General Pam Bondi is saying that Maduro, as well as his wife, will, quote, soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts. Meanwhile, back in Venezuela, the vice president there is demanding proof of life, saying she does not know their whereabouts. Airstrikes overnight in Caracas, rocking the Venezuela capital for nearly 30 minutes. Strikes President Donald Trump is taking responsibility for, saying in a post on Truth Social early Saturday morning, quote, the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolás Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. Officials telling CBS News the U.S. Army's Delta Force, an elite Special Forces unit, carried out the operation to capture Maduro. Experts calling the operation, quote, unprecedented.
This is a sitting president being taken from his capital city, where his security forces should have him essentially impenetrably well guarded and fortified. It shows, I think, the unbridled confidence with which President Trump at times operates. Some, I think his critics, would call this reckless because at this stage, we don't really know what comes next.
The strikes follow months of U.S. military buildup in the region, with an aircraft carrier and numerous other warships positioned in the Caribbean. And in recent weeks, the United States seized 2 oil tankers off the Venezuelan coast, launched deadly strikes on more than 30 boats that the White House says were carrying drugs. The Trump administration has accused the Venezuelan president of drug trafficking and working with gangs designated as terrorist organizations, which Maduro has denied. But Maduro was indicted in an American court for alleged narco-terrorism back in 2020.
We are now looking at a startling moment where a sitting president of a nation that has been a long-term irritant in U.S. foreign policy in its near abroad has simply been captured.
Venezuela's defense minister announced a deployment of military forces across the country. The defense minister called for a united front of resistance in the face of, quote, the worst aggression ever against Venezuela. But CBS News is reporting some citizens are celebrating.
Folks have sent me messages of alert for people not to be posting either anything celebratory or even the videos of the strikes, because those could be regarded by the regime as supporting these strikes, as supporting this campaign, and then those people could be persecuted, could be prosecuted.
Utah Senator Mike Lee posted on X saying, quote, the kinetic action we saw tonight was deployed to protect and defend those executing the arrest warrant. This action likely falls within the president's inherent authority under Article 2 of the Constitution. But New Jersey Senator Andy Kim saying on X, quote, Trump rejected our constitutionally required approval process for armed conflict, going on to say the strike, quote, puts Americans at risk in Venezuela and the region, and it sends a horrible and disturbing signal to other powerful leaders across the globe that targeting a head of state is an acceptable policy for the U.S. government. And this just in, really within a few minutes ago, according to the Associated Press, President Donald Trump just saying that Maduro and his wife are aboard a U.S. warship. He also reiterated what we already know, that they will soon be facing prosecution here in New York. Now, President Donald Trump is scheduled to have a press conference later on this morning at 11 o'clock in Florida. Many eager to see and hear what he will have to say. For now, though, we are live this morning from Lower Manhattan. John Diaz, CBS News, New York.
Thank you, John. And we have more reactions coming in. This one from Representative Adriano Espaillat reacting to today's news, posting on X, quote, while I strongly oppose the illegitimate regime of Nicolás Maduro, President Trump's military action was a serious constitutional violation. The U.S. Constitution explicitly grants Congress the authority to declare war and approval to conduct military action against a sovereign nation. The Trump administration does not have sole authority to commit such acts, and I reaffirm my position that Congress must be fully informed before the U.S. engages in hostilities towards another nation. I urge for an immediate and full briefing for members of Congress following ongoing developments in Venezuela and the subsequent long-term consequences in the region.
And continuing our coverage of this historic moment, joining us now is Jesus Aguayi, the president of Aid for Life International. Jesus is Venezuelan, has worked as an advocate for asylum seekers here in the city. He most recently was a member of the Mamdani Transition Committee. Jesus, good morning to you. Thank you for taking the time. You've worked with many Venezuelans forced to escape Maduro's rule for their own safety and for their own well-being. What do you think this morning's developments mean to them, and what don't they mean?
Well, yeah, we have worked with the Venezuelan forced migration for the past 10 years, started in 2014 when Maduro got into power after he inherited from Hugo Chavez. And Venezuelans have mixed feelings, and many celebrating as they were forced to leave the country due to the Maduro policies, but especially after Maduro lost the election in July 28, 2014. So Venezuela elected a new president and led by the leader Maria Corina Machado. But now the problem is that Venezuelan now that lost Maduro and his wife are on the way to the United States, there's other 4 heads of the Maduro regime, 5 heads of the Maduro regime stay in power. That is the defense minister, that is the vice president, that is Diosdado Cabello, which is the second in power. That means that the regime might continue if there's no other plan from whoever started this process. So there's confusion, and people also in the United States and here in New York also feel persecuted by Venezuela, feel persecuted by the Trump administration as they lost TPS. They lost all the benefits. And so it's a mixed feelings. It's a mixed feelings. This is happening right now. We are vigilant and we hope for the best.
So what more has to happen in your mind in order for Venezuelans here in New York City, for example, to feel that if they escaped Maduro's rule, that they can return to their home country safely? What has to happen to ensure that his government is toppled? Even the fact that he's coming to the U.S., you're saying, doesn't have Venezuelans who have escaped his rule feeling safe and safe to return home?
Well, not yet, because the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, already gave a press conference this morning, and she took power. And the Minister of Defense, Padrino Lopez, as well. So they control the army, the air force, the armed forces in Venezuela. So Venezuelans aren't safe, and this is still the Maduro regime still in power, even without Maduro.
Well, Jesus, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes and granting us your perspective, our viewers as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we will have continuing coverage with the latest developments on these strikes on Venezuela and President Maduro now seemingly on his way back to the United States here. We'll have updates throughout the morning, and you can look for updates on air and on our CBS News app.